All right. Welcome back to the Men's Talk Show, episode 10, season 2. We have a very special guest with us, Ankrit, today. He is a spiritual life coach, and he's going to be here talking about issues that maybe, arose in his, marital status or whatever, and how he can better support maybe his wife or, spouse or significant other. Um, so, kind of introduce us a little bit to you here, what you do, what you want to do in the future. Anchor.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for that, Duran. So, I mean, my name is Ankrit. I'm currently a hypnotherapist, spiritual life coach, a spiritual counselor, and I guess what you would call a modern day healer in the spiritual world. But I also do focus on mental health and men's mental health and personal growth and just kind of being better, getting better, kind of growing and developing. So encompassing all of that. So that's what I do. And yeah, I think I'm looking forward to growing it so much more and spreading the word and being an inspiration and helping others however best I can. And yeah, I've just launched my business with my partner, and looking forward to seeing what comes forth. I ended up leaving a whole corporate world behind after 10 years. So it was a big, massive shift for me. But it felt like there was the right thing to do at the right time. So thank
That's
you.
good to hear.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, let's get the conversation started here, guys. Have you had to overcome any issues with your significant other? Like, have you had any like mental health issues that you had to help, your significant other with? And how did you like overcome those issues? Anchor.
Yes, definitely. I think that was also the reason why, part of the reason why I had made the shift from the corporate to mental health and spirituality. So I got married in 2015, and 2 years after, I mean, actually, it was about close to a year after my wife was diagnosed with anxiety. And I, at that stage, didn't have any understanding of what anxiety really was, how it can control a person, the fear, the doom and gloom that somebody would go through. And without having that full appreciation, that anxiety manifested into depression in fibromyalgia in 2017. And it was about a whole 7 year journey of trying to understand, grow, heal from doctors, medications, pinpointing the roots of the different ailments that come with this. And it definitely was a big eye opener into mental health. It, wow, I would have to say it, the best way that you can, when you're entering that situation is firstly to really get your awareness expanded in what your spouse is going through, because the first thing that when it comes to mental health is usually the person feels alone, and then they feel that they cannot speak out, they can't communicate what they're feeling, they might feel judged, they themselves may not even understand why they're feeling this way when things on the outside might seem totally fine. So I think one of the key factors in the kind of growth and the healing of this full, anxiety and depression was communication. I think one thing that I really highly encouraged was open communication and creating a safe space for my spouse to be able to speak whatever she was in her mind so that she wouldn't feel alone. I think that was like the first step. And I didn't know what it was. So I had to kind of just use what I had experienced in my life and what I was exposed to. And it was just really from my growing up, friendship circles, and going to school that this theme of communication kind of was, it existed, but I find many people don't really communicate, especially in relationships as well. I
Absolutely.
think, yeah, I think there's always this. what a wife should be and what a husband should be, and the standards and the expectations. And and even when you look at culture, especially when you look at different cultures, they don't bring room to just be yourself. And so I think that's one of the key things I would say is communication. Communicate, create an open communication between you and a spouse.
Yeah. Well, first I would say big congrats to you, appreciation to you for having that openness and to grow and learn along with your spouse, because like you said, in relationships nowadays, communication is not the first thing that they think about when it comes to compatibility. Obviously, looks are part of any type of relationship, but once you get beyond that, beyond the physical part, how are you going to have an open communication? Is it a safe zone to talk about how you feel? Is what's lacking in some relationships and why they don't last, because like you said, they're in a relationship together, but they're alone at the same time.
Definitely. And I think another thing which kind of blocks that communication is judgment, is feeling judged by being vulnerable, being emotional. There's always this theme, especially with, I would say, with the millennial generation, where we also kind of grew up partly in survival mode with our parents, because our parents really did grow up in survival mode.
Yeah.
And it's you have to be strong, you've got to be tough, you've got to make sure you get it, don't have room for the emotions. Where actually I would say that's actually really important. I've learned that through the 7-year journey that we've been on, and how if you're not really having that healthy emotional mind, that status, and giving room and nurture for it can really bring about a lot of like illnesses, ailments, blockages, whatever you want to call it, and kind of hold you back from doing anything. It's something that I had to learn.
So what's inside, like you just said, what's inside, it manifests itself physically. If it's not taken care of, the stress and anxiety, things like that, it can turn into very serious physical problems, which people they overlook. And something you just said real quick, our 7-year journey seems like the title of a book. So I don't know if you're writing a book, but there you go. I'll just need a little 10% of that, or giving you the title there.
One day that definitely is. I mean, to be very honest, we can write a book with I think something like fibromyalgia. I don't think it's 100% understood globally. We currently stay in the UK, and I think having that access to that medical health care was an advantage, because there were people who understood it, but our families didn't understand it. Coming from a cultural background, I mean, anxiety alone was something that was foreign. What is anxiety? We're not allowed to have anxiety. What are you worried about? Stop worrying.
Yeah.
It wasn't an understanding of not having control over it, and living in this place of fear of not knowing what will happen and not understanding why. So throughout the 7-year journey, like you said, it was just from doctor to doctor, different medications. I mean, at one point she was on 14 different types of medications in a day. It was a lot, and we had to figure it out part for ourselves. I had to do research. We had to see different, and a doctor will give you their opinion as well. So that's why I also said having your own understanding about also what's going on, doing your own personal research, especially when your spouse is in whatever way, and I think one of the key, I wouldn't say red flags, but the pointers to look out for is just the quietness. When you notice your spouse is just quiet and everything seems to be too okay, oh, I'm okay. It's like, no, there's something that's you're hiding that's deeper that you're not sharing. So that definitely was a sign to say, but yeah, having that knowledge as well can really support you in trying to help them through what they are going through, and thinking, how are they feeling, and having that always thinking about the other person is something else that I really had to learn as well, because I think a lot of times we may not realize how self-centered we can be, not with ill intention, but just sometimes we can be. So
That's
yeah,
the difference.
sorry, I feel like I talk too much, so please stop me, guys, whenever
No,
you
it's all
need
good.
to.
I want to say that what you just spoke about is the difference between sympathy and empathy, right? Just saying like, oh, that, I feel bad that you're going through that situation. Nah, that's terrible. Instead of saying that must be really hard for you. Just those changing words right there, it makes a huge difference to somebody. It's like sympathy is equivalent to like pity, right? And someone doesn't want that. You feel pity on them because of what they're going through. They want someone who can be there with them, hold their hand, and help them through it, even if you don't know the answers. You're just there along with them, and that makes such a huge difference.
Definitely. I think that something that you said was being there, and I think knowing and making it known to your spouse that you are really there for them, I think makes a big difference, because it really starts to take away the fact that, okay, I'm not alone in this. You know, when someone is in anxiety, depression, their natural thing is, am I crazy? Is it all in my head? You
Yes.
know, and they don't want the sympathy because they don't want to feel like they're different. And so that's where it's very difficult. But constantly being like, no, talk, because that's what I did. I kept encouraging, talk to me, and kind of pulling it out of the person and taking that extra effort. Even when she said no, I was like, no, we're not going to leave until you talk to me. And that's where we started to be able to unravel it. So it's the patience that comes with it. I mean, you really have to develop that sense of patience, but you end up growing yourself. I think I'm living proof of that. And from when I started and how I was, very young at heart, very young at mind, and how I've grown so much as well as a person. It's like, that's what we called it, a journey. Maybe I should
Right.
start that book.
And to go along that, when you get married, and even those who don't want to get married, when you say you're in a serious committed relationship, it doesn't stop there. Like, you're married and okay, this is it, things are great. Like you said, there's growth there. And even though you're married with somebody, I used to tell my wife this when we were dating, it's like 8.3 billion people in the world, right? And we're choosing to start a partnership with one person out of all those people in the world. And if you can't talk to that one person, then what are we doing, right? And that's what you're saying. Just because you're together doesn't mean like automatically everything's great and you can talk to each other about everything. That, no, you're still people, and you still have those uncomfortable situations where you have to work through.
Yes, definitely. You grow in those uncomfortable situations. You become closer, your bond gets stronger. I would say that, now the partnership that I have with my wife, and what we've gone through and the bond that we've created, I think definitely, as as horrible as it might be, it actually made us grow a lot closer, to the point where now we don't have a filter. We just always say what's on our mind, and if someone's feeling low, we know how to pick each other up. So like, I'll go back to that same word as communication, and feeling comfortable and allowing yourself to be vulnerable is key, because I think a lot of people find it uncomfortable to be vulnerable.
Now, how did that, going through this journey, how did that affect your mental health?
Thank you for that question, because that's the other thing that I know, because it's the other thing that also kept coming up for me when I was going through it, because as much as I always was like, what about her? There was always a little bit, part of me was like, I had to carry a lot of it at certain points. And I also felt that, I wish I had someone that I could also fall back on, because I wasn't aware, I wasn't fully equipped with the tools and with the knowledge. I had to really soak up on all of that to be strong for her. So it with my mental health, I think it was a little bit difficult. It was a little bit difficult that time, because I was handling work, and I also had to be there for her. So the calls throughout the day, coming home, the conversations, making sure things in the house were running. And and one thing that would never do, and it's never their fault, because that's one thing that they will always be afraid of is it my
Yeah.
fault? And it isn't. At the end of the day, it is not their fault. And I think that's where my inner strength also built, was to be able to kind of hold myself in that manner. And when she got to a great place and she was thriving and it was all moving forward, the roles actually switched, where she kind of became a pillar for me because my mental health took a little bit of a toll. And she kind of was standing in her power. And then she created that open space for me to be vulnerable, for me to be open, for me to share certain things about myself. And it was honestly, it was beautiful, because I think that allowing that space for me after having to have that space for her, it just shows again the strength and the bond that you create with your partner in that. And it helped me so much more, because I also had stuff that I had buried deep down from way before when I was a kid, that we
Mhm.
don't want to face, that we also need to face. And I think that's what came out and was brought out at that time. So I was lucky to have her help me through it. And it's funny because she's the one that had, the anxiety and the depression. Yeah, at one stage of our life, she was like kind of holding me, being like, "Don't worry, like I've got you," which was
Yeah.
really good for me. So yeah.
So so I know that you say you and your, significant other was really dependent on each other to help each other out in the difficult times. But do you guys like go to marriage counseling? And I don't mean that in a bad way, like where, you're having issues every day. I mean, like just to sustain that, healthy relationship in terms of, taking care of your mental health. Do you go seek counseling or therapy? Or
So
have friendships that you guys support on?
So I think that's one thing which I wish we had access and the support with, or for, because we didn't. It was very much because we come from that cultural background. I am Indian, and for those that period, we lived in an Indian society where it can be very judgmental, and you know, if it comes out that, oh, this is what's happening and this is, what my wife would be going through or we're having to deal with, it brings a lot of judgment around it because of the education around this. And so we had to keep it under wraps and handle it ourselves. And because our parents didn't fully understand, which is totally not their fault either, because they've also come from a completely different life, we just had to figure it out. So I think it took a few years for the therapy before the therapy started. And I think definitely having access to therapies really did help. But I don't think it helped as much as when we entered the spiritual world, which was quite funny because I am a believer in therapy. But when we entered the spiritual world of past lives and energy healing and understanding more about the soul and existence, that seemed to bring a lot more I would want to use the word healing than the therapy space did. The therapy just brought understanding, but it didn't bring the deeper meaning to what was going on. I think that was particularly special for her. Marriage counseling, as much as it would have been something that could have very much supported us, we didn't go for that. We didn't have, I think it was just, again, lack of access to go. It was just more the individual therapy for her, where she needed the support. I think it was me who actually read up on counseling and actually read up on marriage counseling. And then I created that space to have these sessions where we just had a marriage counseling session without a counselor involved. And I was kind of acting as the counselor, because what I realized was there's this theme called you basically become a co-counselor to your spouse. I read all of this because I didn't know what to do. So I was like, how do I help someone going through this? And this whole theme of a partner being a co-counselor came up. So I kept encouraging these co-counseling sessions for both of us, where I would even create certain rules. It's not about there's no fighting involved. It's just listening, understanding, responding, patience, empathy, and where are the takeaways and the growth that we can move into. So I guess to answer your question, I was the marriage counselor in the relationship.
So you started talking about spiritual healing, and I think that's a good segue into what you're doing now. And so along this journey, at what point did you say, okay, this is a path I want to get into as a profession?
So I think after sharing and like I said, having these, I guess, innate counseling skills, which I didn't know I had, it was when I reached my stage in the last few years of my burnout and after kind of holding everything and not dealing with a lot of stuff from my past, that was the trigger point for me, where at that point already, my wife took steps into the spiritual world because she wasn't able to find a solution for the depression and for the fibromyalgia in the medical world. The medicine just wasn't working for her. I mentioned how many tablets she would take. Some doctors were very much like, you shouldn't be walking with the amount that someone's put you on. And we were not able to understand that. So the spiritual world gave her a lot of answers. And it was that opened the eyes to, okay, so my problem may not be fully medical. It actually was spiritual. And it came from, having this purpose and having these gifts, because it was after she kind of did this, did she then start to open up her psychic senses, and then she saw her first spirit. And for me, it was more so building back the strength that I feel like I had lost, and how am I going to face the world in my state? I had been so strong for so many years, and I really carried that strength and held on to that strength. And when I was given that room of vulnerability, it kind of all, I don't want to use the word crumbled, but then essentially it did crumble. And it was spirituality that brought that strength back. And that was how I segued into it, because by going into that and using the tools and bringing everything out that I had suppressed, it then brought me this new path. Because part of the reason why I reached that burnout is I wasn't really happy doing what I was doing. It was that whole 9 to 5 race. And again, in survival, just trying to make money just so that we could live. And we weren't really in that situation either. It was in here. It wasn't a physical situation. We were very supported. So that's how I kind of streamed way into spirituality. And I feel like it's been really helpful.
So let's talk about how you're helping people now.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the main thing is hypnotherapy. So I kind of left a foot in the medical world, because I found hypnotherapy for me really helped with overcoming certain beliefs, in overcoming traumas that had held me back, in understanding situations and why I'm this way, and why am I not like this instead of the way that I want to be. So that was the first step. So now it is hypnotherapy and regression work. I also do energy healing as well, which actually has been great for anxiety, which is really funny how that happened, because now I will do sessions on my partner and she'll feel her anxiety actually calm. So these are the tools that I've developed that are going to help anyone who comes my way, anyone who's seeking help. And I think with my experience and the counseling skills and the knowledge that I've gained, being mindfulness, meditation, even using intuitive skills with reading tarot cards to give people guidance, trying to be the best guide, person that I can be for anyone who feels that I'm going to be able to help them. So that's how I'm doing it now. And it's very rewarding. I'm very, very happy.
Yeah. And I think that's great to hear, because there's no one size fit all. Like you said, with modern Western medicine, everybody wants the magic pill tablet that will help them overcome whatever they're going through. And sometimes that's not it. Sometimes it's something within that, is spiritual, or something in your soul that's just not right. And you need to heal from within, not just taking a pharmaceutical tablet that was created somewhere. Getting to the root cause of what is the cause of the concern.
Exactly.
is the key as well.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Getting to the root cause, that's exactly what I work with. Let's go to the root and let's work on it at the root, because everything else is just management and it's just a way to deal with it, but it's not actually getting to the root of the problem to actually shift it and clear it away. And that's what I'm about. It's about clearing it at the root, because if you're not getting to the root of the problem, you're just finding ways to deal with it, but you're not actually overcoming it,
Right?
essentially.
You're just putting a band-aid.
Exactly. So I think that was really well said. I don't think I could have said it better myself. So thank you for that, Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
So Ankrit, do you like help with some of your guy friends if you have it? Like, do they come to you in times of their needs and for spiritual
Um,
healing?
no, funny enough, I haven't. And it's quite funny. I think from the space that I was coming from, this can be seen quite taboo. It's not something that a lot of people will open up. I would probably say that within my environment of people, I'm the first person to take that step forward in this space, and I think I did it very much, inspiringly, not with any doubt. And I think that's why I did it, to be an inspiration for everyone who feels it's too taboo because of judgment to come out and to speak openly about certain stuff, and to say, this is what I'm doing as a man. I think specifically in my culture, or I mean, I would say more specifically in my environment, it is all about getting a job, going to work, bringing money home, and following the masculine role that you were born and bred to be alive for. There isn't really space for this. And so I think what I'm doing was quite a brave step, and I hope that it brings people closer to me, because I am there for everybody. So should anyone contact me after this and say, look, like, I want to open up, my hands and my door is always open.
And that's what we're going to ask you, because we're coming up on the last 3 minutes of the show here. I was going to ask you, do you have any websites or TikTok or besides LinkedIn where they can find you? If just say if
Yes.
a young guy wants to come and he's struggling in life and he doesn't have the money for therapy, or he doesn't have money, or he doesn't have a lot of friends, in his support system, where can he find you besides LinkedIn?
Definitely. So that we have a website. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok as well. And I mean, it's all under the name of the Anayaverse. I don't know if I should spell it out or if I should just give it to you, but
You'll give it to me afterwards. Don't worry.
yeah, but it's basically, it's a new. I was working independently and I've joined forces with my partner, but I still do work independently. And I do one-on-one sessions with whoever. And yeah, it's just to contact me through any of those channels, however you wish. They're all open. It might seem a little new at the moment because I did a restart last year. It was all kind of filled, but I restarted it this year because we brought so much more to the table with being able to help with a variety of things, not just the mental health space. So I expanded it more with the spiritual side of things. But my regression work, my therapy work, my healing work, my guidance work is all open to whoever feels like they would need it. Just drop me a message and I'll respond. It's easy as that. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to checking out your channels, and we were talking a little bit before the show. So I want to ask, you're well traveled, and I want to know I'm gonna put you on the spot here. What is your favorite place to live? Because you live in quite a few countries. So what's the most exciting place you've lived so far?
That's a good question. Each country that I've lived in has had its own excitement. I've lived in Barbados. I've lived in Nigeria, Ghana, the UK. I'm going to be spending more time in India. So it's been a whole a complete cycle. I mean, UK is always going to be a place that I will always have my heart in one way, because I've spent a majority of my time here. I love the diversity. I love how open people are. I love the fact that you can meet so many people from different cultures, and what's on offer. So I definitely love the UK, and I think that it would probably be one of my favorites. But I will never leave Barbados because I'm always an island boy, beach, any day of the week. So that is something that I will never let go of, and it's the place I want to, end up living permanently in a place that has a beach. Like that is a dream of mine, and I think that's one to come. But for right now, in terms of the growth with my work, the UK is the best place for me. So I am in the UK right now. That is
Some
a good
place I want to go
question.
to someday. I actually plan on going there one day. That's for sure.
Definitely should guys check and let me know. Definitely check it out.
Yeah.
It's
All right. So
so
we're
wonderful.
coming up on time here, but I do want to thank you, Ankrit, Wayne, for coming on here and doing the show with us today. Um,
Wonderful.
and did you have any other final thoughts or questions? Or
Yeah, I guess just a big thank you to both of you for giving me the space to share my story, and I guess to try and open up to anyone else who's kind of going through this at this time. And if they relate, they can contact any one of us. And just the space, it's an honor to be here. So thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. And sorry for overtaking a lot of the conversation, but
no, much
No,
needed.
no,
really
no.
enjoyed it. So thank
We're
you.
what I've learned as you talk about growth. What I've learned during our 2 seasons here is that it's not all about us. We're having this space for other people to come and share. And so if we're not talking the most, I think we're doing a good job.
Okay.
So yes, people hear our perspective and it's like, okay, they're talking again. So it's good to have someone else come on, bring your perspective, which is this is different from what we had before. And this was very enlightening. I really appreciate the conversation we had and look forward to having more with you.
And thank you so much for the questions and giving me the space to share. I really appreciate it. And I think it's great what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for being, on YouTube and opening up and creating the space for everyone else. I think it's a fabulous thing, and I really hope more people are subscribing and the awareness is just constantly growing. So thank you.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
All right. That's a wrap, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. But I will like to thank you again, Ankrit. And if you ever want to come back on the show again, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you.
We got more guests coming on throughout until the end of August. That's when season 2 ends. But definitely, if you want to come on in season 3, we can definitely have you on
Yeah,
too. So
definitely would love to. Thank you. Thank you very much.